crew will turn up. So yeah, how's things? What have you been aware of? Anything to report, as it were? Alison, you look dying to share something.
No, I'm not actually, because it's been the last week of the semester and I've been trying to work out if I really can get back to Scotland to visit family for the first time in 5 years at Christmas. So I've not had much time to really do anything.
Yes.
So I've just been trying to keep calm, get the nose feather out.
Yes. Well, good. So the semester is now finished. Yay.
Yes. Last day of classes was yesterday. So I've just got exams to grade, which is relatively easy. It's this last week that's the stressful time.
Yeah. Anyone else? Sarah?
I've been doing for myself and with students a lot of the pelvic lifts. And what's remarkable is I have a student who is over 70. I'm not sure how old she is, but she's over 70, and she's been my student for like 5 years, and she's always struggled so much with her balance. You know, like if we're in a lunge and she wants to bring her arms up, she always topples over, and she can't bring one foot up without toppling. And since the pelvic lifts, she can balance, and she's so excited. Now I can't get her off. She'll be like there, and she wants to stay there forever.
Oh, that's brilliant. Really brilliant. Yeah.
So she's really excited.
Yeah, but that is good. I think just pelvic lifts are just amazing. Just yeah, there's so much to get from them, I think. Anyone else want to share anything before we dive in?
I was doing because I had so many sessions I didn't do, and it was like catching up. And now I think from the new start, I have everything now, and I loved really with the session with the new pelvic pulse and the sitting bones, and I didn't really experiment with that so far, but it's really inspiring. And because I have some pupils that have a bit of difficulties with this, staying back here without coming out with a sacrum, and then it's kind of pull here, pull there, pull. So it's a tricky balance, but I think with this it will be much easier. And if I can say a wish, because I already we were talking about that already. Yeah, I have this one pupil who has really like the back of his legs are really tight, and you know, when he's sitting on the ground, his back is a bit rounded. So with stretched legs, he's really not very flexible there. And I was just wondering, because you were doing stuff for the ankles and with the stretched toes, if you have any ideas for a nice exercises with tight legs.
Well, one of the things to do for him is the psoas work, which we'll be doing today, actually.
Yeah.
I worked with somebody a couple of years ago who was very, very tight in the hamstrings. And we just did, well, a couple of people actually, and we did masses and masses of work on the psoas. And it really did help strengthen the core so that the legs could let go.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. The other thing, I mentioned drunken walking in my message to you. Do you know what that is?
Not exact. I mean, I have an idea, just like letting go and then.
Yeah, but let's just play just for a second. Just everybody stand up, and all you have to do is let. I'll take my shoes off actually. So you really don't want anything on the ground. You can trip over when you do this, and you're just going to let a part of the body lead. I often start with my head, and then you just let the body core catch up, and you can lead with anywhere. But the idea is how little tone can you use in your legs. That sort of drunken you know, just the legs just flop along. And I find that for people with very, very tight legs and who are very rigid in their bodies, actually doing this for a while just can start to show them how little they need to be doing in order to stand up. And you can play with, you know, now lead with an elbow, and now lead with your bum, and now lead with your chest. I mean, it doesn't matter where you lead from. You can lead from anywhere, and just get this sense that all the legs have to do is keep up with the torso, and then come to a rest and don't tighten the legs up again. And with somebody who's habitually tight legs, the moment they come to rest, they'll tend to grab again. No, let go, do it again. And then you just keep going until they discover they don't have to use much tone. I don't usually use things like that, as you know, but they have their place.
Yeah.
So that's fun. It's also great fun to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've even put cushions down and persuaded people to actually let their legs give way.
Yeah.
Before now, but you've got to, you know, that's a pupil you trust. But if you've been working with him for 5 years, he might.
Yeah.
Got a big enough pile of cushions, he might trust you.
Yeah, what we did, which is a bit similar, but just in one direction, is because, you know, in going forward, he was really like very much going on one side to go forward. And then I just like fall forwards. I mean, it's not how we usually want to go, but just to get into this feeling of my ankles are actually quite free, you know, just fall forward and then I fall into the first step. We did this, and at the end of the lesson, because I was really like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? And then I really experimented, and I just had the feeling he thought it was really weird what I was doing, like sitting to the wall and then just like breathing into the legs. Yeah, so I was just experimenting, but I wasn't sure if I was really getting somewhere.
Yeah, but maybe have 2 or 3 goes, because somebody for who really, you know, if somebody really can't do something, the first time you try it, it's like, oh, this is weird. And then you do it again the following week, and their nervous system's going, oh, okay, I've met this before.
Yeah.
So I think the danger is if we try something with a pupil and they really freak, we think I won't go there again. And it's actually the opposite of what's needed.
Yeah.
Go there again. If they freak a second time, okay, back off. But usually I find they don't. They can actually get it second time or begin in that direction. And the other one I was saying was just, again, the leaning back against the wall, letting the ankles go, same thing.
Yeah. So like having this gap between the bum and the wall and just falling backwards in a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And then how gently can you bring the weight up, which again we've been doing by doing this one I've been doing at the start of lessons, of how much can you not engage the front leg again. But for your pupil, it's probably best done on the wall for the moment.
Yeah.
I doubt that will make his leg let go, whereas actually just leaning against the wall, he can probably let it go more. And then how much can he just let the legs come back up so it's a bit, you know, free and wobbly. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. That's good.
Goldie would be horrified. Hannes.
Actually, sorry, Hannes.
What you're talking about is, so it's a comfort zone of the pupil.
Yeah.
And if you're bringing you're challenging the comfort zone of your pupil, it's challenging your comfort zone as a teacher.
Yeah.
And I think this is what we need to work on, to give something our pupils and not be sure what's coming next, and that they will get it and that there will be a nice result. We are
It was more because I was totally improvising, because, you know, he said that we were working on the legs. Then he said, yeah, you know, I have really tense legs, and I was playing football the other day, and it's also tense, and you could feel it. And then he said, yeah, and sometimes I do a stretch on the ground where I have my legs apart. And then I said, okay, show me. And then he sat on the ground, he had his legs apart, and it was just he was completely round, you know, he couldn't sit upright. So I said, you don't have
Like,
to go far.
you remember that stage in Lawrence's videos where in the advanced one, did you watch the one where we tried to?
Maybe I didn't watch because with Lawrence, I didn't keep
Yeah,
up completely.
it's
Yeah.
one of the very last ones where
Yeah.
we've been doing, it was one of the later sessions where we did sitting out with the legs out on the ground.
Yeah.
And then I did it with Lawrence, and we needed a pile of books this high.
Oh, yeah.
He was still so tight at that point.
Yeah.
But we did so much of the of this to come forwards with him that in the end, this
Yeah.
then did start to improve. And I don't
Yeah.
think I don't think I went back to that on the books, but
Yeah.
I don't know whether you're carrying on some of that with him, Hannes, but he really needed lots of that
Yeah.
to really wake that psoas up and let go that primary curve, because it really does open that whole area up. As I say, this teacher I worked with particularly, he really took to it, and he was doing the work on it himself every day, working in that position. And his problem had been very high anxiety. And I said, you know, this isn't just about freeing your legs, this is about getting you grounded.
Yeah.
And it made a difference, actually. It not merely freed the legs, it actually did bring him more into his body. And the anxiety went way down. So, you know, this isn't just about not having tight hands.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of mind patterns, of course, as
Yeah.
well.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Alison. you wanted-
Yes, now I've sort of got my mind around what I have been doing in the last 2 weeks on several things. Working with my mother on hip lifts, which I've been doing for a long time. Went back and really clarified the anatomy for us. We'd done it once, but I did it again and really had her finding the place on her body and showing her, as I did the hip lift, how these places come closer together. It made a big difference for her. The hip lifts have been hugely helpful to get her straightening up again. So that was lovely. The other thing, as I played with them, certainly not much this week, but the week before, I began to really feel the way that as I walk, the weight comes onto the inside of the foot, on the front foot, and the whole side of the body stabilizes the pelvis. It became really clear to me, which was lovely.
Yeah, that's nice. Yes, lovely to have that clarity. Yeah, and I mean, we think we so showed pupils a diagram once and they've got it.
Yeah.
You know, they need to come back and back to it because as their experience deepens, so they can actually process the image better, can't they?
Right.
They've got something more to map it to.
Yes.
Yeah. So you know, very often a year later, it's like, what does that psoas look like? Okay, let's look at it again. And think, oh right, okay, now that makes sense.
Right.
And you know, and I know it looked like it made sense a year ago, but there's another layer to it. And yeah, so never be afraid to show an image again and again and again. Yeah.
The other thing that I had happened with a student, I've had a student who's had pain in an arm for on and off for years, and we were looking at really differentiating the joints in the arm, just the little movements that you had us do, and with the shoulder, and that we really discovered where she had the blocks and where she couldn't really find the movement from the glenoid socket at all. And once we started to get that cleared up, she was moving her arm, not pain-free, but with a whole lot less pain, which was really interesting.
That's lovely. Yeah. Body mapping is amazing. Yeah. You need to get that clarity. Okay, Hannes, quickly, and then we'll get into the work. You've just muted yourself.
I just muted, yeah. I had a discovery with a pull of knees to the back of the sitting bones. So what I found out for myself was it's engaging the pelvic floor, and what we did, like this sucking up along there, it's in this pull, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't have a go. Anybody else might like to have a go as well. So we're thinking the back of the knees to the sitting bones. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yes, it's just inviting everything to pelvic floor to flow up, and then the top of the sternum to and the whole deep front line to come up, and the top of the sternum to come up, and
So toning.
it's bringing that. Yeah, I mean, because I was doing, as I say, I was doing the sort of the pull from the sitting bones to the back of the knees, and I then put in that thinking the leg up in order to bring the up back.
Yeah.
When you have it this way, to say it's all in one go. And if
Yeah.
then you've got the hip lifts, that gives you your down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing about this direction I had with a pupil, and when I inverted it from sitting bones to the back of the knees, the other way, back of the knees to the sitting bone, she had the feeling that the pelvic is rotating in the other direction.
Well, which direction did it need to rotate in?
So my suggestion is she tries to pull her sitting bones away from the back of the knees by this moving like this.
Yes, yes.
So
Okay.
it gives a forward tilt of the pelvis and not the other way.
Well, was her sitting bone, she was actually tucking under too much?
I don't know. I think it's just when we talked about it in the other group on pedagogical reasons might be useful to introduce sitting bones to the back of the knees first to find the connection. And if this connection is not there, you might confuse with the pull in the other direction. And this is, it's my suggestion what happened.
Yes, it's interesting getting people to feel this one. I mean, I tend to sort of get people to stick their bum in the air and then, as you say, pull the sitting bones down.
Yeah.
And that shows one how to find it. And yes, I haven't tried introducing it again to a new pupil. I've got a few new pupils, but at the moment, but they're nowhere near ready for these yet.
Yeah.
They just need to take it very gently on breathing. Yeah, interesting. Keep playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but watching for what the pull is supposed to be doing to the pelvis, which is bringing it to neutral.
She
Yeah.
was able to do it when I did the initial pull, and I say, see the connection, and now you can invert it and think it the other direction. Then she was able to do it.
And she was able to do it. Well, that's fine. That's great. That makes sense.
Just one
Yeah.
second. I have to admit, it was tricky for me in the beginning too, to think from the back of the knees to the sitting bones, kind of, okay, what is it doing? It really confused my brain.
Yes.
So it was really like, huh, what's is it doing?
Yes.
And the other one is really clear that you, in pulling the sitting bones to the knees, you get into this different tilt of the pelvis. And yeah, so I think it really, as Hannah says, it really depends on when and why you're introducing it. It's kind of tricky. I still didn't get it completely.
Yes. I mean, to me, it's my own personal logic is that, you know, if you've got the knees and the sitting bones, it doesn't really matter whether the pull is that way or that way. Neither point is actually moving, but whichever way you're pulling in the direction of, you're increasing the tone in the muscle. I can't demonstrate it with an elastic band because an elastic band can't contract.
Maybe, yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like the 2 points aren't moving. Whether the pull is going that way or that way actually doesn't really matter.
I think it's the word pulling, because somehow it's weird to pull the back of the knees up. So if I just think it's a bit easier.
I have a question.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mary.
This is something I actually admit I haven't understood the whole time. Is this idea of pulling? I mean, are we really pulling, or are we just imagining? I mean, how do you pull that?
Well,
I don't understand.
when my biceps contract, it is pulling the lower arm towards the upper arm.
Yeah.
That's a pull. And you can't feel it necessarily without a heavy weight in your hand, but add a heavy weight in your hand and you can feel that the lower arm is being pulled up towards the upper arm.
Yeah.
So that's your pull. When the muscle.
What does that mean in all of these pelvic directions?
Well, because if the pelvis is, if the hamstring is going between there and there, if the pelvis is slack, if the hamstring is slack, it will let the sitting bones, the hamstring will come longer and the sitting bones won't be tethered, as it were. And then they can just float forwards or float back rather, like that. And if you pull the hamstring, if you pull the sitting bones towards the knees, in other words, if you contract the hamstring, you are pulling the sitting bones back into alignment. Does that make sense?
So it's a contraction.
Yes, it's a contraction. So, but it's difficult to think contract your hamstrings. I mean, we can contract our quads to order, can't we? But can we contract our hamstrings to order? We can't, can we? I mean, if you try and contract your hamstrings, nothing happens. We've no access to that one. We can contract the biceps, but can we contract the tricep? We can't just make the extensors contract. We have to find other ways of getting extensors to contract. They're the tricky ones. And normally people do it by putting them into a position in which they have to work. I mean, if I do that, my hamstring is working because it's pulling the leg up. Again, it's pulling the lower leg up towards the hamstring, towards the sitting bones. Can you feel that? And it's working. So we're just doing the same thing, but standing still. But you really have to, the only way you can access it is to think of pulling one of the attachment points towards the other attachment point, because we don't have the same access into the muscle that we do with the contractors, with the flexors.
So it is thinking of it then.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Imagining it.
Yes, it's and that's why these are trickier to access, so that we can do it into order. But when I'm thinking this now, I can feel my sitting bones being tethered down more, even though I'm thinking this up thought. I can feel that the hamstring from underneath is doing that to them, even though I'm thinking it that way. That's still the intent, that's still the result. Or maybe it's that, I don't know. But either way, the knee can't move, of course. The hamstring can, the sitting bone can move and the knee can't, if one's
And
fit.
I think that's the challenge, Penelope, because I think for some people, when you say pull the knee towards the sitting bone, they try and move the knee towards the sitting bone, stabilize the sitting bone and move the knee.
Yes.
Whereas pulling the sitting bones toward the knees, the sitting bones move the pelvis. So
Yes.
you're stabilizing the knee and moving the pelvis.
Yes.
And I think that might be
Yeah. Well, but if I just try to move my pelvis down, if I just try to move my sitting bones to the back of the knees, then I'm just doing the tuck the bum under, and somehow it is very much thinking it between those 2 points that brings in this different action, which happens by itself, doesn't it? It is, we have to, as Mari says, it's not such a pull like, pulling the iliacs back is a really distinct pull, but this one isn't, is it? You're right, and that's why it's trickier.
This one to me is really, really, really vague too. I think it, but I have never experienced actually pulling it.
Yes, it's not as pully as that one is really pull.
This one, I mean, I've never experienced this one as pulling it.
Right. Okay, yes, because you're another person who actually found it hard to access that.
But I find tone now by thinking it, but I don't have an experience of pulling it.
What about if you take it that way, which is a less clear pull in terms of, it's less distinct sensation for me than that way, certainly.
I mean, I can imagine it, and something changes in the tone and the relationships, but I've never had an experience of actually pulling in any of this down here, and like this. I mean, this is a real pull. The further I take my elbow out, the more it pulls.
Yes.
So students experience that pretty clearly too.
Yeah. But yet here has changed for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, it does change, but it's always been confusing to me, the idea of pulling it. Because I don't know
Well-
how to pull it. But anyways, carry on.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, thanks, Sarah. Yeah. So, yeah. So I think that's something for all of us to learn from here, including me, that, you know, we can say pulls, but sometimes they're more distinct and sometimes they're more sending, aren't they? So,
Sending makes more sense to me, but
yeah.
maybe that's just how my brain works.
Or drawing, or I mean, some people like the word drawing as well. You know,
What
drawing.
I like in your explanation is we try to pull the tricky ones. So it's not as it would be a fitness class, a pure fitness class. It would be, let's do this movement, and it's movement everybody knows. So we're pulling or contracting the muscle. So, but the descriptions are very clear, and it's all descriptions to try to get the tricky ones into contraction, and even, or I say many times, just connected together. So to learn to access all these muscles. And so it's a description for your pupil. If you try, which is maybe not possible, or there will be not movement, but you try to pull your knees to your sitting bones or the other way around. And so it's giving brain work to the people. And maybe in Mary, she's doing Alexander for a while. So you know how to direct, and you learned that it's not possible to move it, but there is something happening because you worked for a while. But trying to bring pupils to do the brain work by explaining.
I guess that's my
how to
difficulty
pull
is
the tricky muscles.
yeah, how to explain
It
that.
makes sense for me.
It's all about,
Sense, Hannes.
I mean, everything we're doing is about making those neural connections, waking up the brain maps. And that's why the body mapping, again, this is so important. Anadora?
Yeah, I was just experimenting a little bit with this, and I think what I really like is if you don't, if it's more like making a connection between these 2 points, and they're somehow, one is like with the jaw, you know, the lower back teeth are dropping away from the upper back teeth, and the upper back teeth drop up and lift up and away from the lower back teeth, and this is kind of here it's coming closer, and it's more about the connection. And then if I just think of pulling down, it might become somewhat heavy. And if I just think of this connection and these 2 points coming closer, it's I have both. I have the up and the down, and it's more dynamic. So but just the pull, the back of the knees to the sitting bones, that was kind of it might make my brain stumble last time, but in this way I can really see that it's really nice, because it makes like a dynamic like a pulse, like up and down, and it's a lively connection, and instead of just a pull in one direction.
Yes, it's a waking it up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's somehow like going up and down then. It makes, that's really nice.
Yeah, so you're saying it really is a two-way pull. It's going that way, it's going that way, it's going that way. It's actually doing both.
Yeah, exactly.
Connection between those 2 points, rather than just psh or psh.
And I just thought, if you make like the rubber band a bit wider, you could also think of this connecting the sitting bones to the back of the knees, and the IT band to the pelvic spine, so that it's a bit like a wider circle. You know, it's also this up and the down, but the up is more in the front. Was just a thought that I could add to this.
Okay, lovely. Lots of great thoughts there. Mary, you're well caught up on the new directions then now, are you? You found session 2 to work through.
I'm still working my way through it now, so that might be part of it.
Okay, we're actually going to work on the psoas today. So, because I'm basing this around chapter 10, you might have noticed every session is based around one chapter or another. And I'm just going to tip my computer up so that you can see my floor better. Let's work lying down to start with. So if you want to arrange yourselves prettily on the floor. I don't know about prettily, but you know, arrange yourselves. With or without a book. And when you're down there, just do a little bit of eye tracking, finding your vestibular directions in this plane. The spatial awareness between yourself and the ceiling.
Okay.
And you might just let the eyes lead the head to roll to one side. And then let it lead, the eyes lead back to take the head back to neutral. And then let them lead the other way. Being aware of the nose feather traipsing its way across your ceiling. Drawing, tickling the ceiling. Excuse me. And then maybe let it go up and down as well, and let your head have the freedom on the books to pull back a little bit on the books, shock horror. And come down, so your head is free to move around, and the body is just beautifully rectangular on the mat. And free to breathe. And just noticing the breath. Where it is in the body. And just letting the out breath happen. And the belly is falling back towards the spine. The in-breath is flowing wide into the sacrum. The out-breath is drawing the underside of the belly wall, that deepest part of the rectus abdominis, right from the pubic bone backwards. Putting your hands on your pubic bone if needed. Hello, Kazuyuki. We've only just begun, so if you'd like to lay yourself down on the floor, you're just finding spatial awareness and breath. Just letting that back of the front wall of the belly fall back on the out breath, just drawn back. Be aware of the belly muscles perhaps wanting to do more than they need, and just saying no. I can just let it fall back. taking the consciousness just a little deeper inside. Just to that front wall of the belly. And just seeing how much you can let it go. Let it engage, back and up. And then on the in-breath, when the sacrum widens with the in-breath, so the transversus abdominis widens with the in-breath, the pelvic floor widens with the in-breath, but we don't want it, the belly pushing forwards up into the air. So if the back of the posterior iliac spine continues to draw round and towards the front iliac spine, that's just inviting that on the in-breath, the belly doesn't push up, but that it instead, the sacrum widens, the back of the pelvic floor widens. And then on the out-breath, that gentle falling back of the front of the belly wall. So you might think that PSIS to ASIS pull on the in-breath, whatever's helpful for you. And then taking your consciousness deeper in for the guts falling back on the out-breath. Being squidged down and wide on the in-breath. Back and up on the out-breath. The organ massage. Again, nothing puffing forwards. It squidges wide across the sacrum and down into the pelvic floor, and then drawn back under the diaphragm on the out breath. And then we could add, since we've been talking about it, that sense of the pull from the back of the knee to the sitting bone, we could add that on the out breath. And see if that in itself starts to bring in that gentle engagement of the psoas back and up along the front of the spine that we described in the previous fitness class as engaging the psoas by as if you're sucking up a smoothie. Now this one's for women really, but Hannes tells me it works for men too. To imagine for men that you have a vagina. And for women, you don't have to imagine it. You're sucking up a smoothie through your vagina.
That on the out breath.
That's on the out breath, that's right. And that's drawing the pelvic floor. It's very gently engaging the pelvic floor on the out breath. And then on the in breath, the whole thing opens outwards and downwards. And then on the out breath, it's very gentle. It's not a harsh movement. It's a very gentle engagement of that core of the body. And of course, for women, it really is a core of the body. But I think often in men, these things are there in an energy form. So even if it's not there physically, it's there at an energy level. So we've got the pelvic floor again as an alive part of the body. It's dynamic with the breath. Remember that the top of the psoas interdigitates with the roots of the diaphragm, so that as the out breath, the diaphragm is drawn up those feet of the diaphragm, that the crura of the diaphragm that extend down the front of the lumbar spine, they will be contracting up. And if they're making fascial links to the psoas, they will be drawing the psoas with them. So there is a very real link here, I think, between the diaphragm and the psoas, drawing up. And let's take that into, has everybody found that all right, by the way? Wave a hand at me if you found it. Yeah. Alison, how are you doing? Yeah, okay. Mari,
Yeah, good.
you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Hannes? Yeah, good. So let's now do a bridge with this. So just on the out breath, the psoas comes back and up, the pelvic floor comes back and up, but you're also drawing the pubococcygeal forwards. On the in breath, just let the breath come in. And again, on the out breath, just this drawing back and up it deep inside, the pubococcygeal coming forwards, and your belly will start to lift into the air. Your pelvis, your lower body will start to lift off. And you're not doing anything to make it happen. The movement is just happening out of the breath. Your feet are going through onto the ground, and gently the body lifts up into the air. And when you're up, just on the in-breath, or whenever the shoulders widen, and then on the out-breath, there's still this dropping back and up, this drawing back and up of the belly, that then will just maybe draw the body a bit higher, but you're not forcing anything. And the more the body draws higher, the more the feet are dropping through, the lower leg is dropping onto the feet and onto the sesamoids. Widening the back and then drawing back the belly, which draws you up. There's no hardening in the lower back. The posterior iliac spine is still coming round to the anterior iliac spine. We don't want any constriction of the lumbar spine or any constriction of the glutes either. The feet, as the knees are staying together. And then as you come down again, think of just pulling your tailbone towards your heels so that your spine lengthens away from your head on the way down. And then we're going to do the same again, but this time we're going to lift the arms first, just sending the arms away from you, the fingertips away from you along the mat. And then letting the undersides of the arms stream up into the air, maybe on an in-breath. Come back in one piece or do it in 2 breaths, come back on the out-breath. But as the arm comes back, you might be aware of engaging that pelvic floor to help support the arms back, being aware of the rotation of the shoulder blade. Stay there for a breath and just let everything, the shoulders open, the shoulder blades are widening in this position. Psoas is still engaged. And then on the next out breath, bring the arms down, being aware of the shoulder blades rotating. And again, just letting the fingertips slide away from you along the floor, as if the undersides of the arms are uncurling. Coming up on the in-breath to overhead, and then on the out-breath, carrying on to take the fingertips to the floor behind you. The out-breath providing support for the torso as the shoulders are lowering the arms back to the floor behind you. And you only go as far as your arms are comfortable. And take a breath there. And then on the next out breath, the breath begins, the psoas engages, and then the movement comes out of that. So let's do the breath together first now. Let's just, on the in-breath, let's take the arms up to overhead. And then on the next out breath, the psoas engages, the pubococcygeals come forward, and as the arms come overhead, so the body begins to lift up. And stay there with the arms, body. Let the next in-breath happen, widening across the shoulder blades, but also across the rest of the back. And then on the out-breath, that back and up with the psoas, drawing it up deep inside. You might feel that connection of the deep front line coming right up along the front of the neck, even right up the front of the spine, the front of the neck. Stay there for a few breaths, just in-breath widening the back, and then the out-breath engaging deep inside, and you just might come up a little higher, but nothing hardens. And then on the out-breath, the next out-breath engaging and bringing down the pelvis, drawing towards the back of the heels, and the arms are drawn to come to. Okay, let's just do a couple of side twists, just again to warm up. So you might bring your legs, if you've got the strength for it, if you don't feel that strong, then put your legs where one knee is down and one foot is on top of the other knee, as I'm demonstrating now. But if you've got the strength for it, then bring both legs up into an L. And now you could, the weight of your legs is really going to try and take you to the side. So in drawing that pelvis, the psoas back and up inside, drawing that core up, and then also working the oblique, that internal oblique in the direction, the side away from the one you're moving. So that oblique is trying to keep that supporting hip on the floor. You're not just letting that side of the body roll off. You're trying to keep the leg on the floor for as long as you can. And even when it begins to lift up, you're not letting it just fall. You're continuing to keep that side of the body working, so that we're really resisting letting the legs be carried over to the way they're going. And just stay there and breathe a minute. And the in-breath widening across the shoulders, the out-breath drawing back and up inside. And then again, working that oblique to come back up again on an in-breath. And then taking the out-breath, that core up and back on the inside, the oblique working. Now on the other side, we're going to go the other way. The head, of course, turns in the opposite direction, seeing how long you can keep that hip on the ground, that hip that's being drawn off. See how much you can resist it being drawn off by working the oblique and by working the core back and up inside. And you're probably also working the lat on the outside as well. The legs don't have to touch down. In breath and out breath, just to stabilize. And then when you're ready, on the next in breath, come on up again. One more time each way. Take your time to find your breath again in the middle, and then just find that core coming back and up. The oblique working, keeping that opposing hip down as long as you can. The head turning in that direction, away from the descending legs. And being aware of the whole spine, really working around its central axis, because you've got this continued sense of the core, of working. Remember, the psoas and the erector spinae and the multifidus are all around that core of the spine. And so you have that sense of the whole spine twisting all the way up, right up to the neck. All the little rotatories doing their thing and coming up to center again. We go the other way. Core engaging, the oblique, internal oblique working right deep into the groin to try and keep that hip down. Drawing up inside to keep that hip engaged. Keep it working to provide resistance to the twist, so that we stay with both sides of the spine working. Everything is working. And then when you're ready, come up again. So when you're ready, rolling over and coming up to sitting. And we're just going to do a very small movement. You're going to sit on your sitting bones and with your legs bent, and see if you can get your feet flat on the floor. And it's going to be quite a subtle movement. We're just going to engage the core as we've just done and see if that in itself flexes your torso towards your knees a bit. And then let go again to come back. It's quite a small movement. Hannes, you might want to sit on a book because your back is rounded. So you might want to sit on a few books until your back is actually straight. And preferably a few bigger books for preference, but yeah, that's already better, isn't it? So you really do want that lower back to be, the sacrum to be straight. It's still a bit rounded. Have you got some of those bigger books that we use for hip lifts? My book and other books like it. You want 3 or 4 books, I would have thought. Everybody else looks straight. So you're just drawing in the core and seeing if that in itself draws the torso towards the knees. And then coming back again.
The in-breath or the out-breath?
On the out-breath. Purely finding the action of the psoas here. That's it. So feet on the floor if you can, Hannes, get them to a point. That's right. Now can you get that back a bit more upright? If you just think a sit lift down, if you think a hip lift down, does that in itself straighten the back a bit? Yeah, that's better. Yeah. Now, finding that core engaging and seeing if that alone draws your torso in towards your legs. Active hip folding, but in a different position to the one we normally do it in. Just squeezing up, making that internal drawing action of the psoas, and presumably the iliacus as well. You find that, Alice? Yep, everybody got that one? Yeah. Can you find that, Anadora? Yep, great, good. Okay, let's lie down again and bring your knees to your chest. And put one hand on one knee, put the other leg up in the air. And again, on the in-breath, you're lowering the leg, so flexing the heel and lowering the leg on the in-breath. And then on the out-breath, engaging the core to flex that leg back into the air. You're keeping the knee as straight as it will go. On the in-breath, you're lowering it. And on the out breath, you'll bring it back up. If you can, don't let it touch down at all. Take it as slowly as you can. Maybe down for a count of 5 and up for a count of 5, if that suits your rhythm. So just. And again, when you're lifting the leg, it's always best to lift on an out breath, because that's where we can engage more strength. Is on the out breath. And you're seeing if you can keep the quad out of it, of course. We're just working the leg. Well, the quad will be working, but we don't want it over engaged. And the belly muscles, likewise, they will be working, but we don't want them hardening. The work is being done. There's a sense of the whole deep front line working. The back is lengthening onto the floor. And when you're ready, fold the first leg in, put the other leg back up in the air. You can hold your knee with the other knee, that flexed knee with your hand, and then on the next in-breath, lowering the foot away. And on the out-breath, drawing back and up. So again, the breath begins, the core engages, and then the movement flows easily out of the breath. Sustained, lowering it down, drawing the breath in, and that in itself draws the leg. So we're not forcing anything to move. The movement is coming out of the core. One more. And then bring the legs down. Without, of course, dropping them. Keeping that core engaged. Now, if you've got a book under your head, tip it out of the way and put your head onto the floor, and extend your legs away from you. And we're actually going to do a classic ab crunch, which by lifting the head towards the knees. But of course, if we just think the head towards the knees, we really will over tighten the rectus abdominis. And the game here is how much can we lengthen the head away? Can we let that raindrop roll and the head rotate around its center of gravity and think long through the back of the head? And you'll feel the whole spine lengthening as you send the head away from you, and then continue to send the head away from you, and seeing if through doing that, you can then lengthen the head up towards the, up off the floor, and you've not super tightened your quads. It's like the movement is now coming out of the back rather than out of the quad, out of the rectus abdominis, sorry. So that's it, Hannes. And your feet can be flexed or straight, whichever works. But the movement is actually being driven by the head, going back and up, rotating up, and lengthening away so that the whole spine lengthens with it, and then the movement comes out of the back. And there's a sense that the back line is engaging, the front line of the body is engaging, but not in a rigid way. And again, just do a few of them. Just take your time. Find that rotation of the head on the neck starts to lengthen the spine. That's where the movement starts. And then lowering down as slowly as you come up. So there's no difference between the coming up, the time to come up, and the time to come back onto the floor. Keeping the belly soft. It's not the belly doing the work. You can feel everything engaging, but it's not of itself the rectus abdominis doing the work. Oh, for me, 4 is enough of those. No, about anyone else? The head is a heavy thing. Nice. Okay. Now, let's sit up again.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
This feels like my head is so heavy, and I'm just the belly is quite. It's not overdoing, but I feel like in my neck muscles, it's a lot of work.
It certainly is. It's in my neck muscles. I'm feeling it now.
It's real. It's really for the neck muscles, because I don't do it with my crunching my belly, but really with the neck muscles, and it's huge. It feels like as if my head is so heavy.
Yes.
And I have to lift it really from the neck muscles in a way.
Yes. Yes. So this is a neck muscles. I mean, the belly muscles will be working, but they'll be working in balance.
Yeah, absolutely. But for the neck muscles, it's really tough.
But it's tough. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm doing it right.
Yeah. Did you find it easiest with the feet flexed or the feet pointed? I must admit, I found it flexed.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting, because I found it easier pointed.
Maybe I try next time.
Yeah. So I'll play with that one too. Yes. Let's sit up again. Anyone else like to comment on that one? So let's say sit up with the feet as flat. Hannes, you might want to be on your books again.
And that would be when you did the leg up and down, extended.
Yes.
It was down on the in-breath and up on the out-breath.
Yes, that's right. Yes, because what you aim to do is use the out-breath for the movement which requires more force. And of course, lifting the leg against gravity is going to take more force than, or more effort than pushing it down. Now for this one, you might want a scarf. I'll show you what we're doing, and then you can determine how best to find it. Because what we're going to do is lean forward from the torso, just as we did a moment ago, and put the hands forwards in front of us. And then we're going to see if, again, engaging the core, we can lift one leg. I mean, real strength experts can lift both legs. So I'll do it forwards. So I'm leaning forwards like I did a moment ago. My hands are not quite at my knees. And then I'm going to engage the core to see if I can lift the leg. Now, if you can't lift the leg, but you can just engage the muscles, that's fine too. You may, if you lean backwards with it, that's dead easy. The minute you get any lean backwards, you've defeated the point. the point is to do it again from the core. This is a really, really tough movement. So, which is why if you really can't do it on its own, you might use a scarf around your foot and just encourage the leg up with the scarf. But again, I could just do it passively with the scarf, and that's a waste of time. So it's seeing if I can find it from the core. But if you really want a scarf to help it, then go for it. So so just you're finding that lean forwards to start with that comes out of the core, and then further engaging the core to lift. My left leg will lift fairly easily. My right leg really struggles. I can feel the quad getting involved with the right leg, and it can't hold it up. Whereas the left leg, I can sort of do a 2-second up and a 1 second down. The right leg, it's like, oh, I can just about plop it up and plop it down again. So this is really showing what our cores are made of. And again, you might find that pressing the other leg down to the floor, whichever one you're lifting, pressing the other one down to the floor. Ah, that's better. That helps my right leg. But on the right side, that's where I want to lean back in my pelvis, and I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to keep that core engaged, keep myself lifting forwards, lifting the torso forwards. And can I keep the core engaged all the way to lift the leg and all the way to drop it down again, to lower it down again, not let the pelvis drop back. Keeping the feet flexed will help. Okay, this is a real test of core strength, this one. It's one to play with at intervals when you're doing nothing else. Okay, let's move on. If you want to kneel, just give those legs a little break here. We're just going to kneel with the toes tucked under and lean forwards on your fists. And then we're just going to engage the core to roll backwards. Again, you could just push back from your hands. There's nothing happening in my core there, but we want to engage that core back and up, and that's tilting that pelvis into and pulling the legs back. And then when you're there, you can tilt forwards again and go again. So you're starting forwards on your knees. You're starting forwards on the knees, Hannes. That's it. And now engage the core to draw yourself back again. Engage the core to draw the knees up so that they follow back into the squat. And the more you keep it engaged, the more you will get back into a squat. That's it. And then come forwards again. Again, you can do this drawing back on the out breath, and then use the in breath to roll forwards again. When you roll forwards, you can extend the spine upwards, extend the head upwards, again without hardening. And then on the out breath starts at the pelvic floor, it draws the pelvic floor up, it draws the pubis back, draws the pelvis back, and rolls us back into a squat with the active hips and active hip folds. So again, the pubicoccygeal is coming forwards as we roll back. That's helping us come into that squat. You finding this all right, Alison? Yep. Drawing in the core, drawing forwards the pubicoccygeals. Draw yourself back, draw yourself back, draw yourself back. And see if that helps you come into that squat. And then from the squat position, next time you're in the squat, again, let's all come back into the squat. And once you're there, again, think that core back and up to extend the pelvis up off the legs. So that you come forwards into forward bend. And then you can extend your head away from you, just to leave your spine into extension as much as you can. You can leave your fingertips on the floor. And then again, draw that core in, draw the core in to draw yourself back into the forward bend. And again, let the head extend like we did once out of child's pose we've done before, but this time we're doing it out of forward bend. The head extends, the neck follows, the upper back follows, until we can draw the spine, the upper spine straight, and then the psoas, the core pulls up and back, up and back, up and back, lifting the pelvic floor towards the sky, drawing us back into the forward bend, and then from there drop down into the squat and back onto the knees on the in-breath. Stretch, that's it. So you're coming right back down onto the floor now, come back onto your knees. We'll do the whole thing as a sequence. So you drop down onto your knees again, that's right. And then draw the pelvic floor back to pull yourself back into the squat. Take a breath there. And then on the next out breath, extend into the forward bend. On the next in breath, bring the head forwards to bring the spine to straight. It's called a sthiti in yoga. That's it. On the next out breath, draw back into the pelvic, draw the pelvic floor up again to come back into the forward bend, and then down into the squat again. And then on the next in-breath, come back onto your knees and extend. So we've got a little sequence there. That's it, down and forwards, Hannes. That's it. Yeah, so you're there again. And then we start again. We're on the next out breath, drawing the spine back and up, drawing everything back and up. And you can now go from the squat to the forward bend in one go if you want. And then forwards with the head into the sthiti on the in-breath, extending the spine, drawing the spine back in, drawing the pelvis up and back on the out breath again, and then going back into the squat, and then on the next in-breath coming forwards onto the knees and stretching the head up in that position. That's it. One more time. And then that's right, forwards onto the knees. That's it. And then we're drawing the spine back, drawing the pelvic floor back and up, the psoas back and up, and drawing it back still further to come up into the forward bend. Head extending forwards. Let the whole spine follow. Keeping your head long, Hannes, don't let it pull back at all. And then the drawing back into the forward bend, bending the knees, and then the in-breath coming forwards and back to kneeling. Okay. Everybody got that one all right? Yeah. Okay. We've not got very much time, so I'm just going to keep going, and then we'll stop in 10 minutes and have a talk. So let's do a half boat. See if we can do this. So now there's our half boat, and on the in-breath, I'm going to extend into the full boat. And on the out breath, I'm going to come back to the half boat. So again, we're working the pelvic floor. And sometimes I can get up smoothly and sometimes I can't. So, and work out which way round works for you on the in-breath and which way works for the out-breath. So, because I think both have their point. But either way, we're working the core movement. Back is coming out of the core. How slowly can we do it? And I can't do it today. Some days I can do it on without cheating and using my hands in a bit of a jerk. But today I'm having to sort of do a bit of a push to get back again. Yeah, that's enough of those. So, yeah, so Mari's got a great idea. She's only going halfway down. That's good. Makes more sense. Yeah, let's try that. Just going halfway, not going all the way to the floor. So we're leaning back a little and extending the legs and then coming back again. Thank you, Mari, for that modification.
I thought that was what you meant.
Yeah. Well, I was taking my back right down, but not my shoulders. Yeah. Oof. I haven't got much stamina today. Yeah, nice. Let's just do the elephant that we've done before. So you're starting in all fours. I'll just demonstrate with your toes tucked under. And again, the movement to lift up the pelvis is going to come, the lower body is going to come out of the pelvic floor. I could just lift from the legs, but nothing is happening in the back. So again, I'm going to just on the out breath, find that engagement of the core, and that is drawing up the legs. And to start with, my legs aren't changing angle. I'm just coming into the elephant, where I'm just continuing to draw and draw and draw until the torso is folded, and then I can straighten the legs. So we'll, at that point, I can go into a full downward dog, and then we can go forwards into plank, and then we can tiptoe, again, drawing the pelvis in, drawing the pelvis in, drawing the pelvis in to come back up. So let's start from kneeling. With the toes tucked under. And you're just very gently seeing if, a bit like bridge, the bridge where you're just drawing the pelvis up in order to lift the body. And we're doing that again. So on the out breath, the core begins to engage. And as the core engages, so you can feel the tone come into the body, and then the legs just will begin to lift. And to start with, you're not changing the angle of the knees. You're just keeping the knees as a right angle so that the torso is folded, and seeing how far you can go of letting the torso fold and then come down again back into the all fours. And do that again. Again, we're just looking for that magic moment where the out breath becomes the core engagement and where the core engagement becomes the movement. And it's seamless. And the head leads and the top of the sternum leads to come forwards again. And on this occasion, we're now going to go up into full dog. So again, the out breath engages the core. Wherever it's engaging into the back, that brings us into movement. And this time the legs extend so that when the heels go down towards the ground, the heels are going away from the palms of the hand, the fronts of the palms. The pelvis is drawing back into the air. We've still got posterior iliac spine coming down towards anterior iliac spine now. Just thinking those pelvic pulls in this direction. There you go. and then coming down again, head leads, head leads, head leads to come back into all fours. And same again, just using that out breath becomes the core engagement, becomes the movement. And it's not going into the belly muscles, it's going into the psoas and into the back. And the legs unfold. The heels come away from the palms of the hand with the pelvis, the core drawing you up into the air. And then find that posterior iliac spine coming round to the anterior iliac spine. And notice what extra stretch that brings in. And this time we're going to come forwards into plank. The head leads to take you forwards into plank. Just being aware of those posterior iliac spines still coming round to anterior iliac spines, and also the backs of the knees coming up to the core, to the sitting bones. And the top of the sternum drawing away from the heels, top of the sternum, the head drawing away from the heels. And now engage the core and come onto tiptoes and begin to tiptoe, keeping engaging that core as you come. Engaging the core, keeping the hands as flat as you can and the feet as high as you can, so that you come into forward bend. And then we come up. And I think we'll come and talk at this point and see how everyone's doing. That's plenty for one day. So, anyone like to comment on any of it?
Feels like a huge workout.
Yes, yes. Could anyone get their legs off the ground in that one tilted forward, lifting one leg and then the other leg?
Yeah. Yeah.
A
You got it.
millimeter.
Sorry?
A millimeter.
A millimeter, great.
I could get
To me,
my heel.
Yes, well, that's a start, yes.
to me, that one seemed relatively easy among everything else.
Yes, Hannes.
In the beginning, with the breathing and the back and up in the pelvis, so with the breathing with the guts to find the direction of the psoas. As I read in your book the first time, and it was new for me to think back and up in the back and the legs the other direction, so like it's opening from the middle, the legs lengthening away.
Yes.
And this is yeah, new, and it's much more powerful than.
Yes.
And also engaging the legs into the feet, into the big toe.
Yeah. Yes, that on the bridge. You can really feel in the bridge that the belly is going one way and the legs are going the other way, can't you? You can really feel that going away.
Even with no movement, even just laying. And so in the book you write about the iliacus is like going into this.
Mm-hmm.
And also the engagement of the iliac spines back. We do it the new way, but and not allowing the belly to puff away. Yes. And finding. So in the book, it's you say it's you find the tube. Yes. And so like
the plunger of the tube.
The plunger, yes.
Yeah.
And this is very impressive to find that. As I'm a musician playing wind instruments, the power of this plunger, it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, because the diaphragm finally, I mean, it's not actually the diaphragm, is it? It's the breath wave, but there seems finally a really full action of it, because if the body is like that, it can only get to there, and then it's stuck. Whereas if you can open the whole thing out, it can go right down to there and right up again. Then we've got that full support of the breath. Yes, it's
and maybe it's the meaning of support. all the singers and wood players looking for.
Absolutely.
Engaging something, but it's you don't want to engage it with the breath. You want to stabilize the tube.
Yes.
And it's about the back and unity line connection of the whole torso, isn't it?
Yeah, because when the unity line is there, when we're over this front, then this comes straight.
Yes.
If we're like that,
Yes.
or like that, we're
Yes.
not. So we need this. When this is straight, then we will have that tube of the pelvis. And the minute we puff out the belly there or there, we've lost it.
Yeah.
Because it's doing that, and we've lost that direct connection.
Yeah.
So this really helps, doesn't it, to keep the belly back, and then the breath really does go right through to the pelvic floor, and then you get the support for your woodwind instrument or your speaking or whatever else you want coming right from the pelvic floor.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
So how do people find this thing? Find the out breath, and the out breath finds the core, and the core then goes into the movement. So the movement comes out of the breath and the core, and all the movement is coming right from the base of the body. Yeah. And even if you couldn't do some of the more dramatic movements there, it doesn't matter. What you're doing is working that inner connection. Yeah. We'll come back to that leg lift though, because if we keep doing it, maybe one day it'll go, yes. Yeah. There's nothing like, again, if you try it a few times over the next fortnight, you'll probably be amazed that you start getting a little bit more. I mean, the first day I tried it, there was nothing there. The second day there was a little bit. The third day I could hold it for a second. The fourth day I could hold it for 2 seconds. It's the first part. Again, I was reading something. I've been reading Philip Shepherd's new book. Did I talk about it last time? I mean, we're doing some of that work now. And they're actually saying that the first 2 weeks of any fitness work, the immense gains you see is actually because your brain maps are coming online. It's nothing to do with strengthening muscles. It's just engaging muscles. And that's very much, I think, what we're about, is getting those muscles engaged. Once they're engaged, then they can strengthen. But the first gains are actually an engagement. So although it may feel like your legs are too weak to lift, it's actually that your brain hasn't yet found the engagement, probably. So, keep having a go. Thank you, Anna-Dora. Lovely to see you, Eva. Yeah.
Thank you. It was great.
Yeah.
It's very strong.
Yeah, lovely. Great.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Okay, how was that? Does anyone else want to comment before we finish? I have a pupil in 15 minutes, so I can't run over too much today.
I had a real sense of widening on the inhale today, a lot more.
That's good. Lovely. Yeah.
There's the support there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got support on all parts of the breath, the widening on the in-breath, and then this drawing up and lengthening on the out-breath. And between them, it means the body is stable, but dynamic on every part of the breath, because otherwise we find our strength by gripping and by holding the breath. Yeah. Great to see you, Hannes. Cheers. Kazuyuki, are you okay there?
Yes.
Yes. Good.
Yeah. So refreshing.
Good. Could you get your legs lifting into the air a bit?
Yes. Keeping further bending a little bit, 2 or 3 centimeters.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Yes. Absolutely.
I wonder if we could have people doing that from the chair too.
Well, that's, yeah, exactly. So we
Might be easier for people to begin to
engage
access.
the leg from the chair. Yes, it probably would actually. That's actually very true. Yeah. Yes, one could do it far more easily from the chair. Yeah, so I did the tough version, the calisthenic version.
But for students who might have trouble with it, it'd be
Yes,
a way to access that.
that's very good actually. Yes, that's the easy version, isn't it? Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, I was doing the advanced one there. Yes, thank you all. One more session before Christmas. We'll have the the 17th. And after that, we'll break for Christmas and we'll reconvene on the 7th of January. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Kazuyuki. Bye now.